black cock. You want to time it?
Sure. Let's try to keep it under 30 minutes. Let's try to keep it under 30 minutes. Let's try to keep it under 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. You do love war movies, all joking aside. You're a big fan of war movies, and that's been true about you since I've known you.
I feel like
since a baby.
have a relationship with war movies like some people have with horror movies, where I feel like as a kid that's just like how I pass the time. But I would like turn on Turner Classic Movies and watch some old ass like World
Some
War II
George C.
movies.
Scott shit.
Yeah, black and white. John Wayne World War II movies.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey there, Pilgrim. We gotta get these kraut bastards across the...
Do you like John Ford? Have you seen How the West Was Won?
That's not a war movie.
I know, but it's John Ford, and there is war in it, so it's definitely a war-ish. It's a war movie.
John Ford. No.
Okay.
John Ford. Only like one of the best directors in cinematic history.
Yeah,
right?
actually, he was.
Sorry, I didn't go to school for this.
He was an American.
I was just raised by Turner Classic Movies.
He started the Ford Empire, which now produces
he's
products like Ford Escape.
Ford Automobiles.
That's correct.
The Ford moving
Sorry, I
cars.
gotta get comfortable here.
Yeah, seriously, what's wrong?
I just like
trying to
I
get
can't
that-
like sit
get
up.
that
I
in the
can't
right
get to
hole.
where I sit up and trying to get this position exactly right. Exactly. Down the
When you're in the right hole, you'll know it.
down the Panama Canal, as
When you
it
get the right response.
as it
Is
were.
that what you call
Yeah.
it?
The Panama Canal.
Honey, time to make a trade route.
Gates down.
Slither on in.
Is that when you move your towel back?
You like that one.
Honey, the levee's down.
How do you feel about war movies?
I like them. I have a pretty passing interest. I like westerns, which are often centered around war, but
It's like I like the feeling of overcoming insurmountable odds, which a lot of war movies are about.
Yeah, the good ones are
my
for
favorite.
sure.
My favorite war movie is probably Avengers Endgame. Sorry, I almost
Hey,
had it.
look, they're all soldiers.
They are. Hey,
Captain.
Captain, yeah.
Come on,
Captain,
seriously.
and he fought the
Ranking
Winter
officer
Soldier.
on deck.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really a traditional or modern war movie that sticks out as something that I really like feel passionate about. I guess I just don't have a super strong connection, but I do enjoy them to some extent.
There's one war movie that I can think of that I actually thought about a lot tonight that I have a pretty deep connection with, and I think you guys can guess.
Is it Saving Private Ryan?
No, it's Shaving Ryan's Privates.
Oh, you're talking about Jarhead, directed by Shawn Mendes or Sam Mendes. Shawn Mendes, hit pop star, also a great director.
Great director.
Great.
No, Saving Private Ryan I thought about a lot. What I love about good war movies is when they put you in the fracas, where you're like in the middle of the shit, and it's like a pure evocation of, well, as pure as cinema can get, as an imitation of what it must have been like to be in battle, in the thick of it. And Saving Private Ryan's opening scene is probably like one of the best pieces of war cinema in history, I would have to say.
Doubt. Like one of the most visceral.
Absolutely.
Speaking of John Ford, I mean that's a direct homage to his war footage that he would get on.
That's right, because he shot World War II.
He shot everyone in World War II.
Sorry, I should say he shot documentary footage while in World War II.
On Normandy too.
Was he on Normandy?
I have no idea.
I don't
just
know
know
if
that he has similar footage where they're approaching beaches in those, what do they call them, boats?
Yeah, I
But,
believe that's
U-boats. right,
U-boats.
But yeah, just
No, U-boats were the German submarines.
That's true.
very classic, just a beautiful piece of film and way to open a movie. and you immediately know what you're gonna get out of a movie.
Yeah, you're in the shit immediately as soon as that first scene.
I imagine you probably thought about it because that's a really long tracking shot.
It is.
Tom Hanks hitting the beach.
Yep.
And shooting some Nazis, and this whole movie is
Carnage
basically
around
two
him.
tracking shots.
Basically. But also, too, I thought that Saving Private Ryan, and this is true of Westerns as well, is I particularly enjoy these kinds of movies that show the consequences of violence. And Saving Private Ryan obviously does that. Like the little bit of that scene that I'll never, ever unsee is like the guy like looking around for his arm and picking it up off the beach, you know, like it was just fucking brutal. And set the tension high, which Saving Private Ryan didn't have a sustained tension necessarily. Like it was kind of ebbed and flowed. But what they did in the ebbs, I guess you would say, is they took that time to build characters and build relationships between the characters. And I think that's one of the reasons why Saving Private Ryan is so good, is because not only is it a great war movie, but it also is populated with really good characters who have good connections, and also too just like a generally engaging storyline. Even if it is just very similar to this film, we've got to get here to tell the guy to do the thing, you know.
Well, I think you're right. I think the cornerstone of a good war movie is that you have this squad of characters that you build up, and then you have to put them in a situation where they're basically in a final stand, and like it's really jarring watching these characters you get attached to get killed.
Yeah. And like think about Saving Private Ryan. Like you can pick out all of the different characters in that. Like you have the Tom Hanks character who's obviously not pleased with what he's doing, but he's good at what he does. And he seems to be kind of surprised by that fact continually, right?
He's also an enigma too, because they don't know much about him. So
that he's a teacher, and
he's a teacher, yeah. So you're actually learning about the character as the other characters are.
Spoilers! I haven't seen Saving Private Ryan.
And then you have like Barry Pepper, who's the sniper, who's like deeply Christian, and who you can tell has
Baptist.
Yeah, he has like some conflict in what he's doing
as he shoots people.
Yeah, and he kisses his cross, and then you have the guy, I can't remember his name, but he was in The Walking Dead, I think, but he's kind of like the shithead, the one who gets stabbed by the Nazi
Brooklyn
through
Jew?
the heart. No, not that guy, not that fucking guy.
No, he gets stabbed by the Nazi.
Oh, you're right. The guy that I'm thinking of is one that...
We featured that in The Matrix, I think?
We
that
did.
Scene?
We did, absolutely.
That's what I remember.
He's the character who stands by the coward as the Jew gets stabbed through the heart.
Oh,
So
he's in $1 Million... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, all of these characters immediately come to mind, and they're like fleshed out, and you understand who they are, and you understand their motivations.
Well, that's a very Spielbergian thing, where it's just...
You mean making like good movies with characters and
the reason why all these movies work is because their characters are very basic, and then you allow them to interact with each other, and that's where the complexity comes in. And then that's it. There's no I wouldn't say they're amazing characters, but they're characters that are interesting and engaging because you understand them easily, and then you can just follow them as the things happen to them, and then they make decisions.
Yes.
You don't need a crazy backstory, and you kind of just have that unravel throughout the movie, but you just need really simple stuff set up to follow them,
and their decisions are guided by their characterization,
right?
No one in that movie makes a decision where you're like, what, why is he doing that? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Even Vin Diesel kills it in that movie, where he's kind of the tough guy right in the very beginning who gets killed. Isn't he the sniper fodder guy in that scene where they go into the little French town?
He's the Paul Giamatti scene. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But so the character development of that movie, I feel contrasts with this movie, because this one is actually not really centered around.
Wait, we're not talking about Saving Private Ryan all day.
Saving.
You got me. You saw where I was leading this whole thing.
Fuck you. We all saw the movie.
Hello, welcome to Be Honest. I'm Addison.
I'm Josh.
Jackson.
How's it going?
Hey, welcome back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Fuck you, it's January.
Fuck you, it's January. Trump's going to war. And
Yeah.
let's not talk about that shit.
We're gonna have our own 1917.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna
This
have
is
our Iran
Squad
1917. Squad to be honest with you, man.
TBH.
I put my hand over my mouth you knew what I was doing.
I did,
You
and
did it
I
before
stole
me.
your thunder, like I always do.
It's totally fine.
Like I always do. None of this is going in, by the way. Not a fucking word.
It's good to be back.
Not a
Fucking
word.
word.
Not a
We were
fucking
ordered into the front lines of the theater. The front row.
Yeah,
We were in the front row.
We were wave
God,
one.
Can you
First wave.
imagine this fucking movie in the front row? Which, speaking of this movie, we saw 1917. The new Sam Mendes film. Sam Mendes, the British auteur, director, who you might know from things like American Beauty, Revolutionary Road, Jarhead.
Jarhead.
By the way, just as a real
Skyfall.
which I loved Skyfall, I gotta say. And
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
I love Skyfall. I did. I thought it was great.
You think you did?
Welcome back. Real quick, I just wanted to get your guys' take on this. I don't want to derail it too much. Is there a movie that has aged more poorly than American Beauty? Like, in the history of cinema? Besides Birth of a Nation, perhaps.
Like, well,
I wouldn't say that movie
you
aged
have,
poorly.
what's the actor?
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey's a rapist.
You have sad Kevin Spacey who's like, I hate my wife and I just want to smoke pot and work out all the
And have
time.
sex with my daughter's
And
friend.
have sex with my daughter's underage friend.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, wow, brilliant, Sam, brilliant. What a piece of cinema this is.
The American psyche really tapped into the brain of the male, the 40-year-old man who's unsatisfied.
I realized this watching 1917, that I think the reason why American Beauty was a success when it was is because of the screenplay, which was written by Alan Ball, who did 6 Feet Under. He's done a few other things, but
6 Feet Under is great.
6 Feet Under is awesome. Alan Ball is just really a pretty great writer.
That screenplay like earned its weight with the reveals where you have Kevin Spacey holding the bag of fast food out to his wife while she's cheating on him. They pull up to the drive-thru, and then you also have the Kevin Spacey getting the bullet to the back of the head because the neighbor thinks that he's banging his son.
Right,
Which
and
is also a part that didn't age well.
Yes. Yeah, when the son is like, and please bleep this out, okay? When the son is like, I hate fucking faggots, Dad. They make me fucking sick. And Chris Cooper's like, all right. But, I mean, the giveaways in the very beginning of the movie where it's like, my name is Lester Banks, and in 2 months I'll be dead. And then the movie takes off from there.
Instead of bleeping that, you should just interject a video of a plastic bag blowing in the breeze where he says that.
It's so beautiful. I haven't said that F word in a very, very long time.
How'd it feel?
It didn't feel good.
It feels salty on the tongue, probably.
Yeah, it didn't feel great.
Well, so we are talking about a different movie.
Yeah, sorry.
None of this is going in, by the way, not a fucking word.
So we're talking about 1917. Sam Mendes did write this movie.
Co-wrote it.
Co-wrote it with a person who has not written a feature yet.
And my point in bringing that up is I think Sam Mendes has written the majority of his films with the exception of American Beauty. And none of his movies, besides maybe Skyfall, have reached the level of critical acclaim that
I didn't know that.
that American Beauty did.
Yeah, I comparing those two, Skyfall definitely did not reach American Beauty at the time.
Skyfall, you have to accept Skyfall's on its terms. It's a good James Bond movie.
I don't hate that movie. I just wasn't expecting that you loved it.
It's
so.
well, it's not like a fine piece of cinema,
Right.
but it is a really entertaining Bond movie, and
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. Anyways, so Sam Mendes
And insert person, woman, director or writer.
yeah.
Because I don't remember her name, and I don't want to just not remember her name.
Kudos
because she did write the movie.
to you,
She gets credit.
my dear. Sam Mendes also, and I think this is going to be important to our conversation, something I didn't know about him until I researched him a little bit this week. He's also a fairly renowned theater director. And in fact, it seems as though he has garnered more accolades as a theater director than he has as a director of film. And I think that experience as a theater director really lent itself to this film, 1917. It's no secret now, everyone knows that's like the big thing that this film is it's all one shot. I mean, not technically. It's not technically all one shot, but it's edited and filmed to appear as though it is one continuous shot.
Two shots.
Yeah, or two. Well, yeah, because you have the.
He's knocked out midway through the movie, which
Yes.
is a cut.
Yeah.
Which is the only one.
There's
untrue,
there's
actually.
several.
There's several cuts. They just hide them really well.
Well, yeah, so they hide them, but that's the only one that's like not hidden.
Yes.
It's like the screen goes black.
Yes.
There's two other times where the screen goes black enough that you can edit.
Yeah, they go through like a tunnel.
But yeah, you're right. That's the most outright.
That's the
cut.
one that they lead on to, where it's just like, this is obviously a cut.
Yeah.
Like we can't, if we're gonna do it in real time, we can't.
I didn't
pass
actually
several
believe that
hours.
they filmed this all in one.
No, I know you didn't. But as far as like
I believe it.
the blocking and the movement and kind of how things just like pop into frame and then out of frame, it all felt very kind of theatery to me, to make up a
That's
new
a technical term. Yeah, theatery,
theatery,
not theatrical. That doesn't make any sense.
But I mean, when you think about theater, the whole element of it is the live performance and the fact that all of this has to go off without a hitch and so on and so forth. But I think we would be remiss if we did not mention the outstanding Roger Deakins, who did the cinematography for this movie. And so I'm just going to jump out real quick. 1917, what did I think of it?
Addison, what did you think of 1917?
I thought it was a technical marvel. It had incredible cinematography and visuals. Everything else about it was completely fucking empty. Joshua, what did you think of 1917?
It's not bad, but I think to parrot you a little bit, the technical aspect of a one shot and the effort that it took, and it looks amazing. It's an amazing film in the way it's presented. And then I think the fact that there is nothing else after that, it feels like a gimmick, and I'm kind of just left cheapened by it. But I mean, it's really hard to say that it's a bad movie when it looks so good. There's not very many bad movies that look that good.
No, it looks really, really good. How about you?
I agree. I feel like this movie is gimmicky in the sense that it was conceived around a cinematographer's idea, where it's like, this is going to be, filmed as basically one take or two takes. It feels very empty around that. Like, the story is not very intriguing. These characters, they feel a little empty. You don't really get to know them.
I don't think they're characters.
Yeah, they don't really develop them.
No, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the only moment of character development that I can think of in the entire film is when they happen upon that busted out farmhouse initially, and Blake is looking at the cherry blossoms, and he's like, "Hey, these aren't quite they aren't bloom yet. You ain't got the fruit yet.
Here we
Need
go.
more. We used to pick the cherries. It took all day." Like, that was the only point at which I was like, "Oh, okay."
Me and my profile.
So this guy probably comes from wealth because his family has a cherry orchard, and so on and so forth. That was the only moment at which I was thinking about this character's backstory.
What were the characters' names again?
Blake and Schofield. Blake is the
Schofield.
Schofield.
Heir to the Schofield revolver empire.
So I like
really?
Blake a lot more.
Wow.
Like, I was actually getting attached to Blake because he kind of, like, you feel for him. Like, he's like, I'm doing this because it's my brother. He's pushing himself because he wants to save his brother. And then Schofield is the one where you're just like, well, he's got experience. He was at the Battle of the Somme, which is like one of the most, like, it was the highest British casualty battle to date, and he obviously had a terrible experience there, but he earned a medal, and so you have this kind of backstory there. But other than that, he's kind of a dry character.
He is, and Blake had like the baby face, he had like the baby fat on him, so you knew he was like young.
Yeah,
but
they did a good job casting these soldiers young.
They did.
Yeah,
They're very young.
Yeah, they have some panning scenes where you get some soldiers' faces, and they're all clearly like 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
17, which would be very appropriate to historically accurate.
Yeah, 16 or 17.
Yeah, I was reminded of like the anecdote from World War I and World War II, where like young boys would put they would write 18 on a piece of paper and they would put it in their boot, and when the recruiting officer would be like, "How old are you, son?" They'd say, "Over 18, sir." Like
over the number.
because they're over the number 18, but they were in fact 16, 17.
And there's stories in Britain. Peter Jackson had a documentary that came out last year,
Which is fantastic.
It's good, and he has a story in there where the guy's signing up. He's like, I'm 16. You're like, you mean 17, son? And then they like sign him up and send him on his way to like just utter hell.
Yes. What was that movie called? Like, They'll Never Grow Old?
Yeah, they'll never grow old.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was one of the best, if not the best, colorized war footage movies that I've seen, and also too a pretty good documentary, like a pretty competent documentary.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting format for it. You know, not really like it didn't have a narrative to it. It was mostly just like firsthand accounts that were recreated for this.
Yeah, so we have Schofield and Blake. They're given an order from the general, played by Colin Firth.
From the Bombat General.
Yeah, who's like, they're walking into a slaughter. There's going to be 1,600 men. Your brother, Blake, is one of them. They're going to be walking into a German trap. You need to take this letter, deliver it to them so they know not to do the thing. Mm-hmm. And that's...
Don't attack.
That's the story. Yeah. The movie is set up and then no
you
real
know exactly
story.
What the story is from the trailer.
Yes, you do. The trailer gave everything away.
Yeah, but I mean, if we talked about Saving Private Ryan for like 20 minutes. The whole story in that is just very simple. They have to go save a man.
It is simple, but once they get there, you don't really know what happens. Where Saving Private Ryan, there's more going on in the end. Like, you have this kind of like resolution. In this movie, it's literally he gets there.
I agree.
He says,
yeah.
"Hang on, spoilers."
I mean, that's the superiority of Saving Private Ryan, is that there is something more to it, and I think actually to the point of Blake dying so soon.
What a bad choice that was.
I like that actor a lot.
I agree. It was a bad choice because they didn't do anything else with anybody else. But if they had other characters that were interesting, I'd be like, fine. Because it was kind of like, I was getting really invested, like you guys were saying, like this character has some backstory. And as he was talking, and I was like, oh, okay, well, we're probably going to see less of him because he's telling us too much already.
And the way he dies is kind of lame, where it's just like the plane gets shot down and blows up in the farm, and they drag the pilot out, and he stabs him. It's just like really far-fetched for a war death. You know?
Well, yeah, because one,
he just crossed no man's land.
That pilot would have been in shock from his wounds and from crashing a plane. I doubt he would have the wherewithal to be like, better stab this guy.
All right.
And that's one of several complaints that I have about this movie, which is like how one note and one dimensional the Germans were in this movie. Yeah. Like, they could have just been Nazis. Like, we're talking about World War I, but
they were Nazis.
They weren't Nazis though, because this is World War I. But the way they depicted the German military in this movie was that they're just pure evil, like no shred of decency whatsoever. Right. And I objected to that. I thought that was like a bullshit shorthand.
You must defend all Germans. You spend so much time in this movie like not talking about stuff, not developing character, and there's like some beautiful like just slow, like the camera's like a god, the way it moves, and just such a control, like Roma almost, like it's just like so much master behind the camera.
Shut your fucking mouth. You don't know what you're talking about.
What?
Roma is not even like 1917 is not even in the same league as Roma.
But
like,
I'm talking about the framing. I'm talking about the framing and the way that you're slow. Anyways, shit is like just slowly developing, and you don't have any other like, you don't have a chance to like develop a German character, or I don't know. I think it's just like they pigeonhole themselves in this one take thing because you have to stay with these characters, and then you're gonna be doing too much exposition, and now the writing has like been hurt from this gimmick, and it's like you can have these extended shots, like do it, it's fine, there's beautiful sequences, but like also cut, like show us different things, like what do you want to say about this movie?
Don't be so committed to this like idea of
the film's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness.
Yeah, it's a huge cost.
It comes at a huge cost, and the first, after Blake gets stabbed, and we are in spoilers, I called that out, right?
Not yet, but
You,
spoiler.
you yelped it.
I yelped spoilers, so like
This
make it
movie's
like
not very-
crazy
this
with
movie's not-
colors and.
Oh, okay.
But a couple of things that I really objected to because it was a bullshit attempt of like misleading us was that they like purposely omitted some diegetic sound. Like after Blake dies, he's stabbed. All of a sudden, there's like fucking 200 soldiers around and like
Right.
in caravan trucks and shit. Like, couldn't they have given us a little something like?
They had rolled up within like probably at least a minute at the earliest,
Yes.
and so there's a minute of them just being there because there were people pissing on the wall.
Yeah.
So they've been there, so at least for 30 seconds or a minute. So like there's nothing going on. Yeah, you're right.
And they just show up. And then similarly, when he's like escaping the Germans in that bombed out town and he just jumps off that ledge into a river, couldn't we have gotten a little like burble of river or something so we knew what the fuck was happening?
I think what your problem is that the music is cheap. The score is like a cue
You
emotion.
are reading my fucking mind tonight.
I know
because
how
the
you-
score was another big problem for me. I thought the score was completely out of place in this movie.
Well, I thought it was pretty. I think it's boilerplate. It's like a superhero movie where it's like you need to feel this now, and maybe just to cheapen the other things or to hide other elements of the movie. But it's really like half the movie is when there's intense things happening. We know it's about to happen because the music's starting to swell up or whatever.
Yeah.
That scene where Schofield he hops over the front line towards the end.
Oh,
Over the
yeah.
top.
And he's running, and it's like that's a perfect moment to just have all diegetic sound.
Yes.
Like, if you want to like really up the emotion and the intensity, or maybe sprinkle in some music. I don't know, but like it's all music. It's all this huge score, and you're kind of just like detached from it, and it's too flowery and for like trying to be like somewhat of an anti-war movie. It feels as if it's like playing it up too much. I don't know.
I have to
Mixed
object
messaging.
and disagree with you that this is an anti-war movie because I didn't think that this movie had any ideas or themes whatsoever.
Okay, that's fair. I said mixed messaging.
I walked away with nothing from this movie.
And also, like, as the hardest war to make a movie about is World War One.
Yeah.
Because literally just both countries or all the countries just dug in, and for like 4 years the trenches almost never moved. It was just sending people over the top to die. So that doesn't make for a good movie. So this movie kind of cheats a little bit.
Yes. One big cheat that I can think of is initially early on when they're going through no man's land and he cuts his hand, right? And then they go into like one of the bomb craters and there's that body getting eaten by rats.
You like that one?
And then
heard
and
that.
then
The moan from Addison. Almost like he was the dead body with the hand going.
Yes.
Yeah.
oh, well, I mean, like, give us some payoff. I know it probably isn't long enough from a medical perspective, but like have
he's
him
gonna
develop
lose his hand,
gangrene or
right.
something like
Well,
that.
I was actually
like,
looking at his hand because it gets dark in some areas.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's happening.
Yeah.
Same exact thought. Like,
Yeah.
oh, he's dead just from that. Cause
just from that.
modern medicine isn't.
Yeah, he
there to
wouldn't
save
have.
him.
He survives like a month and then he loses his arm or whatever.
There's some interesting like moments of historical accuracy where they're going through the British trenches and it's like it looks like shit, and then they go over no man's land into the German trenches, and they're well designed.
There's concrete.
Multiple, very deep,
Yes.
which was very historically accurate,
and like actual
barracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they like. He's amazed that they have beds.
Yes.
in them. So.
And they have like Elsa carved in and stuff like
and,
that.
Like the comments like even the rats are bigger than ours.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
There's like just the rats. There's another just like a plot device. Like I don't know. It just felt like you were
The
just
rat
kind of
tripping the
you were just
wire.
like stringing
Yeah.
along, and they like cheaply set these things up. The rats and the milk are the things that stick out the most. But it's like the rats are around, so like we're gonna see the rats
The dirty hand in the milk, man. That made me sick.
dirty hand in the milk.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to get out of the way, and this isn't necessarily my idea. I read a couple reviews who have said something similar, but this movie is the best video game adaptation that I have ever seen in my fucking life that's not actually based on a video game. Yeah,
That's
like
really
like
interesting,
when they're
yeah.
walking through the trenches at first, and he's like, "Go ahead and crouch down." Like I just saw the B prompt,
Yeah.
like pop up on
You're
screen,
learning-
press
you're
B to
learning,
crouch,
yeah.
press A to jump over and get into no man's land.
Schofield's
And then
just,
like
bouncing around people. Just,
oh yeah, like the pail of milk is like glittery against the backdrop, so that you know that you have to go over there and hit X to interact with it and fill your canteen, because later on in the game you're gonna have to give it to a French woman and her orphaned baby. Like
I did feel like that's a really good point, and I guess it's not your point, so I'm not giving you credit.
well,
Mr.
but also I'm not finished.
Oh, okay.
The other thing too is that you have these stretches of them running through things, shooting at things, and then there's like an expository dump that's brought on by Colin Firth, Mark Strong, or Benedict Cumberbatch, where it's like a cutscene. You like the black bars were there the whole movie, but I could almost see them like coming down even further for when he encounters Benedict Cumberbatch. To be like,
came all this way, we're like, we don't need that message, soldier.
yes,
Soldier, we don't need that message.
jiggle the left joystick to break free of the soldiers.
Press X to hold out letter further.
Well,
And you get that like rumble feedback as you jiggle the joystick as you're breaking
the
free of
camera
them.
rattles.
Yeah,
All right, I'll read it.
yeah.
The whole thing's coming down! Come on! Can't see! I can't see! Trust me!
It did feel like when they were like, especially the opening sequence where they're going through the trenches, it felt like all the characters who would like add some little like line. It just felt like a video game where, and Andrew Scott, who I wish he was Schofield or something.
Which one was he?
He's the one. He's the cool badass bro who's just so jaded by the war.
Oh, the lieutenant who's like
smoking a
he's
cigarette.
like, throw your flare back, mate. I want you dead.
Actually,
His accent's great.
He was my favorite one.
Yeah, he had a couple good lines.
I liked him. It just felt a little cheesy, but Andrew Scott's great, and
He's like, I hate to give these to the Huns, so if you get shot at, go ahead and toss it back.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And on a side note, one of my favorite cinematographic moments was when he shoots the flare and the camera's focused on them, but then they start walking forward and the camera like revolves around, and then you see the flare dropping down in the distance.
Up yours, Lieutenant.
Oh, so can we talk about my favorite part of the movie?
Please.
The town that they're in, or Schofield's in after he's on the solo mission. After German girl or French girl, after French interaction, right? That's after it.
Well, it happened in that.
Yeah, he
town.
gets knocked out by the Nazi shooting his helmet, and then he hits his head on the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
He gets knocked out, and then he wakes up, and then he's walking through this. Sorry, look at me. No, not a Nazi.
Was
The
this Indiana
German.
Jones? Not every
Right.
German's a Nazi.
I'm sorry, not Nazi.
Nazi.
The Nazi shot him.
Yes.
But yeah, he wakes up. This is the second half of the movie, or not second half, probably 3/4. But he's running through. I just like the visual of it. I thought it was very stupid how everything kind of unfolds, but the first part of him running was just I was like kind of I was captured. I was like, wow, this is
that
beautiful.
seemed like for me it represented the moment I realized that they weren't gonna have like a representative combat or fighting where it's just like this guy running through a town getting shot at. That probably almost never happened in World War I.
No, and also these are trained soldiers. They wouldn't just run around and shoot from the hip after you.
Yeah, he came on Thursday.
They would
Thursday,
stand.
All the Germans were wasted.
Right, I know.
drunk.
Because, Germans love to drink. They're drunks.
There was a couple moments where German soldiers chasing man, and he shoots at the wall.
Oh, the walls
Like,
got
he's-
shot up.
he's
Oh
like-
my God!
He's like, oh, I'm running. in."
R.I.P. the walls and the steel gates.
And maybe that's just
Yeah.
like if you're doing these kind of long takes, you just like we got it. Like that
It was
didn't
almost like Star
maybe it didn't
Wars
work.
Stormtrooper, almost like ridiculous. Like
It's an action movie, and I think the ultimate point I want to make about this movie is that it's like it is the mass appeal action movie, and there isn't anyone who's going to really disagree that it's a bad movie
Gotcha.
or a good movie. Thank you. Oh, that's very nice. But it really is just the lowest common denominator in terms of content.
You're like Luke Skywalker in the Wampa cave, like trying.
the pills is shaking. Can I have a daddy's little yellow pills?
Oh, I guess we're breaking.
We're at 30.
Break.
What this? So we're talking about these hollow characters, and
They're not characters.
right. They're caricatures. They are.
Yes.
They are not even a canvas for which to paint on. It's literally just stand-in filler. Like, this is a human body. We know it's alive. We know if it's dead or not. That's it. That's all you get out of it. But this movie is like so applicable to the mass audience, and it's not like. It's not this. I don't know. It's being touted as a cinema thing. This, like, it's, I don't know, amazing. Maybe it's just the marketing, but
See, I disagree with you. I don't think you're wrong, but I disagree with you because I think the mainstream audiences are going to be bored by this movie
I think so too.
because there's no meaningful action. The only meaningful action, arguably, in the whole movie is when Blake gets stabbed because there's actual consequences to it. With the exception of that, it's just him running through like war-torn streets.
he run big. So the only thing I think would make up for this movie is the score, and the points where
I
we
disagree with you
where
again.
No, I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that the people will feel something because they're being told to feel something.
It will stir the emotions.
And it's a historical film. It's sentimental. You know, we are going through this weird time of like, just like talking about or like revisiting Western, like early 20th century Western history, like in film. And I don't know, there just feels like this movie is just perfect for the time that we're in, and we are wanting to like displace ourselves. And this movie is a story about a hero, even though it's a really bad hero because he's a bad character. But I think people are gonna like attach themselves to that idea.
Well, I think the audience for this is people who literally want to see a movie that is committed to the one take.
But I don't think mainstream audiences give a shit.
Mainstream, no.
I don't
but
give
I
a
think
shit.
there's an
I
audience
fucking
for it. I
hate
mean,
this one take thing.
when we were leaving, the people who were walking out in front of me, they were like, "That one take was crazy."
Which take? That one take.
That one take, that was the whole movie.
Look, if this
Is that the future of movies, though?
No, this was an absolute gimmick.
Future of action movies where you have really long...
It's like Avatar.
It's like John Wick was doing that. I mean, not to this extent, but it was very committed to the one take.
I mean, Birdman did. Birdman did
Well,
Well, Birdman
did it, but
the inspiration
fucking
for this movie, I feel like.
fucking Rope by Alfred Hitchcock
it. I mean, this
did this movie, a one-shot movie back in the fucking 60s. Like, the concept of the one shot is not new. And you can admire Alfred Hitchcock's Rope more because they were so much... You want to Google Hitchcock real quick? Alfred.
Okay. I'll look him up later.
Was way more impressive because he had so much more technical limitations in front of him than fucking Roger Deakins does with like drones and all this other shit. Like there were so many things that enabled them to make this a one-cut movie that Rope didn't have. And then Birdman had the one-shot thing, but I didn't feel like that was the locus of the movie.
It's
where
a
that
means
was
to
the
an end.
point. Like it was a neat facet on top of a movie that was already had interesting characters with interesting character interactions and like weird, surreal.
Well, that's
moments.
That's theatery, as you would say. And the whole point of the one take was to just create that more.
And Birdman is based around a theatrical production.
Yeah.
So, like, he built that idea into the screenplay, that being Alejandro González Iñárritu. So, Birdman is an infinitely better use of the one-shot formula than this movie. This movie got bogged down by its ambition to be a one-shot. To have... I think Sam and he's like, oh, check out, wouldn't it be brilliant if like we did a war movie that was one take? It would be so fucking visceral, mate. Can you imagine it? Put the eyes right there in the fracas, you know what I'm saying?
I think he saw The Revenant. I think he like saw the battle scene in that, and I think I would.
You know who directed The Revenant?
Sam Mendes.
Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu.
Oh, it's not Sam Mendes. I thought Sam Mendes was all these movies.
Go fuck yourself. You didn't think that.
you didn't think that. Yeah, I mean, we can keep going on and on
We can
about
keep
which
going
movies
on
are
and
better
on
than
and
this
on.
movie. Ultimately, it just isn't something that is entertaining because it is so fucking boring.
It's pretty boring.
And it honestly had a lot of opportunities to save itself, although I don't know how much of
The beginning isn't, it had promise. Like, I was like, it was nerve-wracking going through no man's land and going to the other trench, and then it just like...
And then you cut.
See, I have to disagree with you. I didn't feel any sense of tension at any point in this movie. And maybe that's the trailer's fault, because I didn't think at any point that the mission was in jeopardy. I knew that letter was going to make its way to Benedict Cumberbatch and that lives would be saved. Well, and so going through no man's land, I was like, all right.
I almost have to reject that idea, because I did hear that about this movie, where they're just like, the one take ruins it because there's no tension, because they can't end the take because...
It's not the one take. It's just the story in general.
The story in general. Well... The thing is that, the movies always have to progress no matter what, so just being like, well, I know the movie has to get to where it's going, so, there's no tension. Well, that's every movie, I feel like.
Well, as a bit of a teaser, I think that a good example of a movie that might defy expectations would be Uncut Gems.
Well, at the end.
Yeah, and we're not gonna talk about it in
where
depth.
Where the gems were actually cut.
Right, the gems were actually cut. But that is an example of something where you think you know the movie that you're going to see, and then they subvert your expectations to a certain degree. And
well, this movie doesn't build scenes, and maybe that's a writing thing. Well, it is a writing thing, but it's
also a victim of the one shot.
Yeah, the reason the tension can't be built is because you don't have. There's no camera movement in any sort of erratic fashion, even when there is action happening. It's very just like... It's not naturalistic because it's super stylized, but at the same time, it doesn't have any character itself.
Why in God's name did you have to choose me?
Jackson, would you recommend 1917?
No. Maybe like as a streaming option, maybe.
I think that's interesting because you are like the war movie buff among us, and
yeah, but as a war movie, it's bad.
Yeah,
this isn't even a war movie. It's almost like it's a cinematography like experiment.
It's a show. It's a technical showcase.
Yeah, because like you don't get that the character development, which is essential in a war movie, because you have to have that sense of like, oh, these characters I am being attached to and I'm learning about, they're dying. And then there's also just like not much of a battle sequence in this. You get at the end, sure, you get like some people going over the top, but it's not really about that. It's about just running through trenches.
Yep. Running the movie. This is like the Death Stranding equivalent of a film, where it's just like, how much can you run, feller? Joshua, would you recommend 1917?
No, I would not. At the end of the movie, after Schofield has mission accomplished everything, he talks to Rob Stark. And
he's on the aircraft carrier with the banner behind him.
Mission accomplished.
With Clint Eastwood.
That'd be great Photoshop.
That would be.
I'll work on it. Yeah, Rob Stark puts out an amazing performance because he has to pretend to care about a brother who's like who died like 3 hours ago. But he walks away, he sits down underneath the tree, and he opens up a box and has pictures in it. And there's photos of his wife and daughter who say, inscribed on the back, come back to us.
There's some weird foreshadowing.
I felt like I was insulted.
Yes.
I felt like
Yes.
Sam Mendes said, "Fuck you. I hope you fucking shit yourself."
He said the idiots are going to love this one because Schofield, up to that point, there's a couple moments where they set it up where
He's like fucking around with that little box.
he's fucking around with that little box, but also where they're talking about his medal, and he's like, "It's just a piece of tin," and when I got it, I thought about if I never saw my family.
No, he cut. He's if I never saw. And then finish, and you're like, "Oh, what is he talking about?"
Yeah, and then actually, we didn't talk about this scene, but I hated this scene, and I hated it. Was when he goes into that little basement area and he finds the French woman who has this orphan
boring.
baby, and and she's like, "Do you have a family?" And he like ignores it, but then he's so good with the baby, like all of these little things that Sam Mendes thinks he's planning in your brain to be like, "Oh, he is a family man. I hope he makes it home to his wife and kids."
Like, stay here and bang me.
What movie were you watching?
Sorry, that was a rough translation, but that's what she said.
I don't speak French.
You're just learning French.
Yeah.
He's like, ooh, wah, oui, oui.
Ooh, voila.
Oui, oui.
Oui, oui, mas.
Yes.
So no, I would not recommend the movie. I honestly might recommend the movie if they didn't include that scene, because like, just fuck you.
Yeah.
Addison, what do you think? You would recommend the movie based off the milk that was gathered and then transported.
If you're a video game fan, watch this movie because it is
Essential.
the best screen-to-screen translation. I wouldn't recommend this movie unless you're interested in the craft of cinematography, in which case I think that there are a few things that you could learn or glean from it. But if you're looking for a good movie with good characters and a good story, this is not it. It's by no means deserving of any kind of awards or recognition. It is average, painfully average.
Mm-hmm.
The Phoenix Times calls it the movie of the year.
Phoenix is no shit. They didn't serve any wars.
Look, the best thing I can say about this movie is that I think it will be by far the strongest release of this January. Because we have Doolittle next week.
Oh, I can't wait.
We're
talking
Doolittle.
Doolittle.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've been shitting on this movie all night.
Yeah,
which is fair. But I think it's gotten its fair share of criticism by being the winner of the best drama at the Golden Globes. What an embarrassment, I must say.
I mean, what a racist organization.
It won Best Drama?
So,
Yeah.
It won Best Picture Drama or whatever.
Yeah,
It won the big one.
it won the big one.
It won the big one.
It won the World War of movies.
Because best comedy was what was it? Because
It was Marriage Story.
Was it Marriage Story?
No.
Honestly,
You
that was,
got me.
There's some of the best.
Once Upon a Time in
comedic scenes
Hollywood?
in that one.
Absolutely. I think Lighthouse was slightly funnier than Marriage Story, but Marriage Story was pretty
I
funny.
don't like my cooking.
You're like lobster.
Comic.
Call back to the movie.
Plus, it's Fart House.
It is
I
fart.
think farting is funny.
Fart House Cinema, baby.
Farting
There's
is
a
funny.
reason why they call it that.
Yeah. So anyways, stay tuned. Next week we're going to
Big
do
things coming.
uncut penises.
Actually, it's cut penises, uncut gems.
The Jewish and the breasts and the circumcision and the sucking of the blood from an infant penis.
Whoa.
You got it.
And then
Insult the Jews. Support the Nazis. Insult the Jews.
And then we will be doing our year-end retrospective for 2019, as well as a reflection on the past decade.
Yeah, we wanted to wait till the last week of January to get the final word in.
Yes, we did.
Just
We
in case
did.
anything slipped
Well,
in.
honestly, this was the last movie of 2019 because I do consider this to be of 2019 that I wanted to see before I weighed in on what I thought.
This movie had a really weird release.
It did. It was L.A. and New York on Christmas, and then
A ton of marketing
Yeah.
for something that was limited release.
Yes. Agreed.
I'm coming home, my father.
We will lose 1,600 men. Your brother among them. Good luck.
I'm going back to see my father. going there, no more to run.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please email us at tobehonest.cast@gmail.com. Thanks, Sebastian, for your compliment.
Barbara, we miss you.
Barbara, I don't miss you. Fuck!